Hi everyone, and welcome to another live stream of the Platformers. And today with us we have Matteo Bianchi, and together we are going to unpack the latest Kubernetes release, version 1.32. And no better person to do that than Matteo. So if you can please introduce yourself for everyone.
Hi everyone, I'm Matteo Bianchi. For Kubernetes 1.32, I've been the comms lead, which is the team that handles all the blogs and external communication with the CNCF, with the news and the media and other stakeholders, including podcasts, by the way. So if you ever want to interview a release lead, you should go to the comms lead for that release, and you can get access to the release lead.
Yep, and Matteo is also a CNCF ambassador and one of the co-organizers of DevOps Days Amsterdam, and probably a bunch of
KCD. DevOps Days, we are just friends. I just go there.
Okay.
I'm not an organizer.
So you were very, very friendly there. So yeah, I stand corrected. KCD Amsterdam and a bunch of other stuff, probably too many to name, right?
I won't list them. No. You can find my GitHub profile, Bianchi Dev, and you can look at all the stuff that I do.
Yeah, and please send us a link so I can share it with everyone in the chat. And if anyone has any questions whatsoever throughout the stream, please leave them in the comments and we'll answer them as soon as we have a bit of time. And please follow Matteo through this link on GitHub. Okay, so Matteo, can you give us a teaser, like for some of the highlights of what we're about to see, some of the things you're most excited about in this latest release?
I'm very excited about a couple of changes. Some are stable, some are beta, some are alpha. The alpha one that I'm very excited about is the mutated admission policies with the common expression language. This makes very easy to write those admission policies with finally just one DSL, and that should be also simplifying in the future every kind of policy-driven development of Kubernetes. We have the structure parameter for DRA, dynamic resource allocation. That's very important to enable workloads that are using specialized hardware, of course, AI, so GPUs, but also FPGA and any other kind of hardware, even like for edge computing. Let's think about cameras and stuff. A lot of people use Kubernetes for very, very cool stuff. We also have stable features that are coming through this release. The custom resource field selectors. We have improvements overall on the volumes for reliability and for like cleaning up the unused ones when they're not anymore attached to a stateful set. Service account improvements for security. So we have a lot actually of security improvements across the line. And as I heard on LinkedIn a couple of days ago, the releases are becoming more boring, which I think is good, because if Kubernetes is boring, it means that it's easy to use. And that's what we want to do.
Yeah, that's actually a lot of people's wishes. Just make Kubernetes boring again, so we don't have to think about it, like Linux, in a way.
Yes, make Kubernetes boring again.
Yeah, we can run with that. Okay, so without further ado, let's dive into the release blog. I'm always curious about naming, and I want to talk about Penelope and how you choose names in general, but maybe we can save that for when we talk about the release process and how, like, your role in the comms and what other SIGs are out there. So let's see, stop me whenever you want to dive into something specific.
So I would say that we should start with the quality of life improvements on nodes and sidecar containers, because we already spoke briefly about the DRA enhancements, and we're going to dive deeper as we go deep into the blog. So These changes are mainly from SIG nodes. We have some quality of life improvements that are not necessarily like a full new feature, but they really improve our cluster life cycles. So imagine this: you have to restart the kubelet, and you want that when it restarts, you want to have a DL check, and you want to limit the maximum number of restarts. This change enhances the reliability of the kubelet using the systemd watchdog capability, which is a capability that's activated at the node level. So in Linux, in the operating system of the node. Then we have also, how many times did you have, Woody, image pullback off error? How many times? Tell me.
Too many times.
And how many times did you not find why? Like, what's the reason for this image pullback off?
Well, I work at Commodore, so very rarely does that happen. But definitely in the past, it used to be very way harder, let's say.
Cool. And now you want to know that not only your customers for Commodore, but also the vanilla Kubernetes users can sometimes see the reason of the image pullback off with a more like human-friendly message, so we don't have to get all crazy. And all the observability tools are going to be able to use this new reason field to better understand what is happening inside our pods.
Then how does that work? Sorry, Matteo, if you could. How would that work? That integration with other like existing observability tools would be able to utilize that?
So basically, if before we had the we were reading the state waiting message, we wouldn't see anything but the message itself. So there was no reason for this image pullback off. But now there is a new field that gets populated, and if it's one of the reasons that have been mapped, it's going to be shown in this field, and then can be used for observability purposes to enhance the troubleshooting experience for any observability tool. So this is for everyone. This is upstream Kubernetes. So it's not specific to any cloud provider. And I think it's very cool. Even Commodore, I think they can now scrape this reason field and improve even more the product.
Absolutely.
Then we have another change, which is pretty interesting. So we are preparing, the team, the SIG node is preparing to get the sidecar container feature graduating to stable. So now it's the time of bug fixing, improving the documentation, get it ready for graduation. The graduation process, which is really interesting, I'm going to just briefly introduce it, has 3 stages: alpha, beta, and stable. So a feature in alpha, it's technically non-production ready. It's behind the feature gate, usually behind the feature gate that you have to enable explicitly, so you can use it in your cluster. Usually the same for beta, but maybe sometimes if the feature is stable enough, you won't have a feature gate, and in stable, it's going to be enabled by default. So you have to disable it if you don't want it. And this typically entails like new APIs that you can use, or like this case, a new kind of container, which is the sidecar. We all know the sidecar, or at least like all of the platformers know the sidecar pattern, because everyone here is a better engineer than you and me, Udi. You know, you should invite your audience.
I set a very low bar, but yeah,
it's not true. It's not true.
Yes.
It's just that your audience is very smart because you invite a lot of nice and cool guests. Not me, but
that's
everyone
true.
else before.
And you're definitely one of them. You are cool and smart.
So
jokes aside, let's give a few examples of like graduated or projects that are in alpha, beta. For example, something that everybody knows, like Istio. Istio is already graduated, right?
Yes, I think this is a bit different, as in the projects of the CNCF landscape have a similar naming in their graduation process, and maybe even a similar process for graduating. But inside Kubernetes, the graduation is done at a different level, like at the development level. So what we do is gather feedback from the community and from the users for alpha and beta changes. And then once the change is stable enough, there are no bugs or like little bugs, and then we decide to apply for a graduation. And the developers like have a roadmap for the entire life cycle of this feature, starting from document, which is called the Kubernetes enhancement proposal, which is more like an RFC, if you think about it. So it's like just a bunch of schemas and like trying to get on paper the idea of this feature, behind this feature. And that gets, again, scraped by the different special interest groups. Let's say I want to create another way for the scheduler to schedule more efficiently AI workloads. I go to SIG scheduling and I say, hey guys, I really want to create this new feature. I create the proposal, I submit it to them, and then someone is going to review it. And if they agree, I can take on the issue and start the development. So it's also very interesting to understand how we develop Kubernetes community-wide. And I think it's a very cool democratic process that we, in open source, has little to no equal in other projects.
And there's definitely you can see AI and machine learning being a driving force here behind some of the features. So how does that work? Is it just immediately obvious to everyone that AI is a big thing, so we need to start support GPUs and other stuff like that? Or there's a visionary who comes forth?
I think it's very interesting because, Kubernetes is under the CNCF, which is a foundation. We all know it. I'm a CNCF ambassador. But behind Kubernetes, there's also a committee. And there are also, which is a steering committee made of different people from different companies. And there's also, like, of course, the interest of the big cloud providers like AWS, Google, and Microsoft. But we also have the smaller, in terms of users, cloud providers. They also have a say. And so I think the direction of the underlying businesses is to implement more and more AI. We are seeing this with many products. We are seeing this with many AI agents. I think that LLMs started it, so ChatGPT started it. In particular, OpenAI with their training on Kubernetes, like they started using very advanced features. They started, managing and orchestrating GPUs instead of just CPUs and memory. And then it's a bit natural, but it's also an industry push. Because after all, it's an open source project, yes, but it's widely adopted by many industry giants. So the direction is also business derived. But the cool thing is that at least it's neutral. Like we are not doing any favoritism in the development process. We have mechanisms in place that keep Kubernetes as agnostic as possible. And then, of course, it has to be an open platform, so any cloud provider can come in, extend the APIs, create their own operators. They create their own flavors of Kubernetes managed services. And I think this makes Kubernetes the ubiquitous platform for platform engineering and for the future of AI.
And then everyone benefits from this.
Yes, absolutely. And a lot of those companies benefiting from Kubernetes, they also contribute a lot to upstream. Like if you look at our dev stats, you see a lot of people from Red Hat, from Google, everyone commits back to upstream. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And also to various other projects that are also almost ubiquitous, like Carpenter, for example.
Carpenter, Prometheus, OpenTelemetry, like we have a very cool landscape. It's not just Kubernetes, but of course Kubernetes is our sun, if we think about our solar system.
Yeah. That sounds a bit like a cult.
Yeah. I mean, in a way.
So let's see, what else do we have here? Custom resource field selector, support to size memory backed volumes.
Yes.
What
Bound
do you-
service account token. Like these are all like the stable improvements are always in my heart. Because when an improvement graduates to stable, it means that we did our job. We as like the whole Kubernetes community, even the users, because I count the users as a very important part of the development process for any software. In particular, Kubernetes, because we have a ton of users around the world, around different industries with different use cases. And when something graduates to stable, that's a collective effort to bring it and keep it. It's not set in stone. We can, in the end, in time, also like change some stable features, but this means that they've been tested and they have been proven on the field. So I really like this. We can think, for example, the size memory backed volumes. Now we can finally we can dynamically size the pod resource limits, and this increase a lot, of course, like the workload portability and of course the utilization of resources, which is also very important for sustainability, because Kubernetes was born in the end to better utilize those big racks and servers and be able to share with multiple tenants, this kind of thing. And this work was done, of course.
Which is still far from true.
Of course. But we came a long way. If you think about many releases ago, the volumes. I started working with Kubernetes before 1.13. So there has been quite a lot of improvements around the volume management, I would say.
Oh, since then, for sure. And every release is like another step forward. But when do you feel that there's something very significant versus something that's a bit mundane? And is there something in this release that you want to highlight as very significant?
So I think that this release didn't see any like big and shiny change that's like revolutionary, or like the removal of very old code that we did a couple of releases ago. That was very big, like a chunk of the code of Kubernetes is gone, which was not needed because it was cloud-specific code that doesn't belong to an agnostic platform. I would say that in this release, the big change is the structured DRA parameters, the support for structured parameters, which enables DRA even more. But that's an effort that is continuous. It's graduating to beta, and it's from a working group, which is another interesting topic. Working groups are like different special interest groups that work together for a scoped reason. So in this case, we have a working group that's creating features around device management to simplify, again, workloads like AI, machine learning, and edge computing of any sort. So I think that this is very important for the future of Kubernetes, because edge computing is growing, AI is growing in the industry, machine learning for sure. And so this shows that Kubernetes is keeping up, even after 10 years, because we have to remember that now Kubernetes is 10 years old. It cannot still vote at the elections, but in 8 years it will. So, and I mean, this is a project that started from a single company and now has become really the de facto standard for cloud computing and the base for any platform. Like, I couldn't think of a platform without having a Kubernetes underlying somewhere. Then it can be many layers before reaching a Kubernetes cluster. But in the end, I think fundamentally, if you're building any complex distributed system, you might be working with Kubernetes and containers, like 90% of the time, which is wild.
Absolutely. And so we see things that are specific for AI, machine learning, and for edge computing. Is there anything specific that can be traced to the platform engineering trend?
Well,
or everything is basically related to platform engineering.
I think that this, in a way, is very, very true. Like anything is related to platform engineering. But, for example, the change that you're highlighting now, the first one, job API managed by mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
So we have external controllers like Q, and Q is a very interesting project, by the way, which is done by, again, a sub team inside Kubernetes. That manages the job synchronization across different clusters even. So an interesting talk by Ricardo Rocha at KCD Denmark, but also at KubeCon in Salt Lake City, in which he did like a live demo. He works for CERN, which is a very important physics center in Geneva. And he deployed in production on live stage. He launched a couple of jobs just to showcase that what Q could do. And now we are adding support for this kind of external controllers because, again, Kubernetes is the major building block, but we also have an ecosystem around it of plugins, controllers. We have, of course, all the operator system. Like now I'm thinking about running databases in Kubernetes. There are many operators out there for this. And Kubernetes enables, with these changes, even more extensibility of the platform. And I think this is the epitome of what platform engineering is. Extensibility and be able to customize based on your own domain, on your own requirements, this wonderful computing platform.
And should I keep going? What else do you want to highlight in this?
There are some, again, quality improvements from SIG storage. We recover from volume expansion failures. Like I really love volume management on Kubernetes, right? Because that's something that sometimes we forget that we can have. We can save data. We can't just pass them through, but we can also save it in Kubernetes. So when we expand the volume, we can fail, right? And now we can, with this change, recover from failure gracefully and reduce data loss or corruption, which is the worst thing that can happen when dealing with volumes on Kubernetes, because there is no snapshot of the VM saving you, most probably, because the nodes are ephemeral. The nodes are like not taken into account when you run Kubernetes. So you might be on one node or another, you don't know it. But unless, of course, the taints and stuff. We have also another new cool feature, which is also graduating to beta, the volume group snapshot, which is just a utility. It's very cool. You can take a snapshot of multiple volumes together, which seems very simple, but behind the scenes, I can assure you, there's a lot of work that's been going on for this. And this also, again, guarantees consistency across our volume management system, which is great. And I think SIG storage, by the way, is one of the SIGs that... I lost you.
The what? So?
We are back. Perfect.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you can give an example of a use case when the volume group snapshot might be useful.
Well, for example, if you have a workload that writes in multiple volumes for reasons like, I don't know, you are storing your logs in multiple locations, maybe differentiating by customer, for example, because you have a multi-tenant environment for a single product, but serving multiple customers. For some reason, you might want to back up those volumes, and you don't want to back up per single customer, but you want to back up per product. So across the line, you can just create this snapshot across, again, your different customers using the same product. Same example, you want to not back up per customer, but per product. So you want all of that product to be backed up, indifferent from the customer. And this is very cool. You can, of course, have more like complex cases and scenarios. But this thing is like, you can even back up volumes that are of different size. Of course, then the time elapsed is going to be the time needed for the bigger volume to be snapshotted. But that depends also on the underlying kind of SSD you're using in the node. So please choose performant nodes when you deal with a lot of bandwidth and with a lot of data flowing. Because being a consultant, it was before, I saw a lot of people complaining about the slowness of their Kubernetes cluster, and that was all about the storage. That had nothing to do with the computing with the CPU and RAM. It was all storage.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think that only a couple of years ago, people wouldn't trust running data on Kubernetes. It would be pretty crazy and reckless, or cutting edge, depending who you ask.
I tried running my first database on Kubernetes when it was not like, there was no ecosystem of operators to support it. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to do it again. It's fine. I can have my Oracle, my big virtual machine running always forever, never turning it off, never updating the operating system. It's fine. But I'm glad that now a lot of companies are proving me wrong. EDB, Percona, there are a lot of Couchbase, a lot of companies are running on Kubernetes, their databases, different flavors, NoSQL, SQL, vector databases. So now we really are in the era of data on Kubernetes, which, by the way, is a very cool community. If you want to join it, you can. They really have interesting talks.
Yep.
Also at KubeCon, usually there is a Data on Kubernetes Day as a co-located event. I attended a couple of times, and it's really cool.
Yep, and if you like I know about Farrell isn't part of that community anymore, but in heart he is. And I remember when they were just starting out, and it's amazing to see the velocity and how much they've grown. And now it's a huge global community, and it coincides with the industry's growing adoption of data on Kubernetes.
Yeah, absolutely. You came to scroll until my favorite change, I see.
Oh, what is it?
Structured parameter support, of course. That's the most interesting change of this release, to me at least. We saw many DRA enhancements in the previous releases. This one is particularly significant because it graduated to beta. And finally, once again, we are trying, and the direction which Kubernetes is going is to eliminate the need for third-party drivers to do stuff. In this case, what are we doing? We are allowing the kube scheduler and the autoscaler to have the claim allocations for these specific hardwares by themselves without relying on a third-party driver. So this eliminates the need of relying on other software but Kubernetes. Like eliminating dependencies, I think when dealing with complex systems, it's always a good thing. That there are maybe edge cases, but I do think that this is a general kind of rule. And this work, by the way, as I was saying before, is done by a working group called Device Management, which is a cross-functional team that has members from SIG Node, SIG Scheduling, and SIG Autoscaling. That, by the way, did a great job on this specific enhancement. And I'm really glad, as a release team member, I don't contribute code, well, you can, but that you can do it separately. But I don't contribute code personally now in Kubernetes, but I can see the whole process. I get to see from a privileged, I think, point of view. I get to see how everyone is working, what's the status, and I get to update the wonderful users of Kubernetes out there about the new exciting features. So that's I'm really grateful for this.
So maybe this is a good segue into the whole release process and everything relating to the behind the scenes, unless there's something else you want to touch upon, or you want to finish strong with your favorite part.
No, I think we can
release.
finish strong on my favorite, because I think people are going to be already reading this blog. You're going to leave the link in the description, and then everyone can find it online. It's fine. Like you can even read the whole changelog, by the way, which is way longer than the blog. If you are brave enough to see every single commit that went into Kubernetes this release, it's very fun. Shout out to our part of the release team that handles the release notes, because that's one of the most difficult teams to be in. That's why I wasn't in that one. Yeah, one change one comma, because it's all generated by a JSON. One comma can destroy the release note, and then very funny stories about that.
So let's talk about your role as the comms lead. Tell us a bit what do you do, and how do you become a Matteo? How do you become a lead?
So in order to become a lead, and this is generally speaking true, there is an application process initially to be a shadow. For the previous release, for 1.31, I was a shadow for the comms role. I was selected as a shadow. And what you do as a shadow is basically just work, have like tasks delivered by the lead to you. You execute them. You also look what the lead does. And you basically, again, shadow this process so that you can be ready and you have all the tools to become a lead yourself. Particularly for comms, what we do in general is coordinating information that flows internally from the project and externally. So what we do externally are blogs. We have three main blogs that we, or families of blogs that we manage. One is the mid-cycle blog, usually at the mark of the 7th week of the release cycle, which counts in total 14 to 15 weeks, depending on the release. And that blog is usually a sneak peek where we anticipate some of the features, or a deprecation and removals blog if the release requires to have a lot of removals and deprecations, which in the latest releases has not been the case for a bit. And then we have the release blog, which is the one that we were sharing. That is the main source of information about the release. And we also have a family of release feature blogs. So any author of Kubernetes enhancement proposal can, after developing the code and testing and ensuring that the documentation is ready, they can write a blog about what they did. And they can write about the single feature, focusing on examples, use cases, architectural schemas if necessary. And that blog is a joint effort between us of comms and SIGDocs blog, to which I do a big shout out, and sometimes some people from SIGDocs, because again, to contribute to Kubernetes, you don't need to be necessarily technical or a Golang developer. If you are, please go and develop code. But if you're not, you can contribute to the docs, you can write a blog, and you can help the release team. The application for 1.33 is open, by the way. It's going to be open until I don't want to say something wrong, but it should be mid-January-ish. You should have the link. Perfect, amazing. So please apply. It's a very wonderful time to apply. And also, I think personally, I found this community very welcoming. As I knew almost nothing about the internals of Kubernetes, of the SIGs and the release team, but everyone is very eager, including myself now, to explain, to help you out, to point out where you can go to contribute based on what is your skill, what you bring to the table. And everyone has something to contribute.
Absolutely. And now that we have the link shared with everyone who wants to take their first step, can you give like a few milestones of what happens next after you submit the form?
Yes.
And the gods of Kubernetes choose you for the next phase.
After you submit the form, your application, along with hundreds of them, because we get a lot of them, are going to be reviewed by SIG release and by the lead selected for the role. So for this release, it's not going to be me. It's going to be for comms, my current shadow, Ryota Sawada, is going to review the application. Since together with SIG release, I'm going to select 4 to 5 maximum shadows. And this is the selection process. You're going to receive an email. Please check spam, because sometimes the emails go to spam. That's something very funny. Google has Gmail sometimes doesn't work very correctly. Then we have an onboarding process for the shadow. We have a general onboarding where we give you an overview of the release team and how is it composed, what are the various teams, the various responsibilities, the deadlines, because we have some deadlines. The most notable one is the so-called code freeze, where everyone should stop coding. If you're familiar with development processes, probably you know. And we need to stabilize the software. We have the test freeze. And then we have also like the website freeze, which is for us of comms very important, because no one can touch the website until the blog is published. And this is very interesting. I think that after then this onboarding, we give you a more specific onboarding on your single team. In this case, I deliver the one for comms. And in that onboarding, you get to know your other teammates, the other shadows that are following the release. And depending on the team, then you have different responsibilities. You have different timelines to follow. It's very dynamic. You can always ask your lead for help. In our case, I think our team is the one that interacts the most with the different SIGs, because we have to ask about the features. We have to get information from them. We have to get a review from a technical perspective of what we write inside the blog. So I think this is the best team to start. I might be biased because I started in this team, but I think it's the team that gives you an overview of how everything works, while maybe other teams are more narrowed. Equally interesting, because I think that any team that you can join is going to give you a lot, and it's going to give you a lot even professionally. I say this because you end up speaking with people working from different companies, bringing together different perspectives, and maybe you can even find someone that has an opening in their company. They're going to give you a referral and you get a cool job. Like it's a community after all.
Was that your story?
Well, no, my story is more like no, my story was a bit different. I mean, I guess, and I asked actually after getting hired, and the fact that I contributed to open source was a big plus. Like I was the only one in that cohort and interview that contributed to open source. So if you do that, write it on the resume. It's gonna look good. But do it because you like it. Don't do it because it's a good resume kind of thing. Just do it because it's cool. And like, you know, when you go to KubeCon, if you attend, I met many people at the Contributor Summit. I met many fellow contributors, many people that I didn't think that I would ever meet in my entire life. But it happened. And I think that that's the power of Kubernetes, bringing together people from around the world. There's no restriction on becoming a shadow or contributing. You can be anywhere in the world. It's a very transparent process too. And I think it's one of the best open source communities out there. Again, I might be biased because I'm part of it, but I think that this.
We all are. That's why we're here talking about it.
Yeah,
getting excited about another release, and that's a good thing. And it's definitely it's a it's a good community when you also find benefit in it, and people are uplifting you, and it's not just like a circle of sharing or
yes. I
gossiping.
think that the fundamental thing is that everyone started somewhere and they're willing to pay it forward. Like now, I've been mentored by my previous lead, Abby McCarthy. Hi, Abby. She was very amazing with me. I had a lot of questions. I think I had like 5 questions per day for the first days, and she was so kind to answer. And so I tried to do my best to do the same with this cohort of shadows, and I'm sure that the next lead will do the same. So I think that this is the great mechanism that the release team has put in place in the last releases for sure, because I know that the process has changed a lot since the inception. Because initially, of course, the release team was inside Google, and then when they open sourced the project, they started like being more open to have, of course, people from different companies joining. And so far, like the release team is one of the aspects, I think, of Kubernetes that can inspire also other open source projects to do the same. I know many projects have a similar setting in the release team. That's like, I would say that that's a very good sign that we are doing something that makes sense for the larger community.
Definitely. And just before we finish, we did promise to talk about the naming process and what does Penelope mean for you and for all of us, and if you have any insights into what the next name will be.
So the insight on the next name is very difficult because we know who's gonna be the next lead, but we don't know the name because the name is selected just by the leader. So in this case, Federico selected the name, and his background is a mix of archaeology and IT. And so he was passionate about the Odyssey, and he thought about the fact that Kubernetes, of course, is a Greek word that means navigator. And then, of course, Ulysses was a navigator. He was going around, and his wife, Penelope, was waiting for him for 10 years, exactly the 10 years of Kubernetes. So I think this name was a great one. The logo too, he made it all by himself. So also shout out to Fred, very cool graphical skills. I can't wait to have my Penelope t-shirt because that's a cool thing. If you are in the release team, you get a t-shirt for the release you've been shadowing in or leading. So that's an incentive to subscribe to
another good reason.
Yeah, you get free swag at KubeCon. You can take it from the booth, or it can be delivered to you. This name, I think, shows also that we gotta be patient, like Penelope, and the good features of Kubernetes eventually will come back to us. It might need 10 years. I hope it needs less, but.
Well, it has already arrived after 10 years. We have the slightly more mature Kubernetes. And I'm downplaying it. I'm kind of downplaying it.
We are waiting for Kubernetes 2.0.
Well, it's not too far. Within our lifetimes, probably.
I hope so.
Well, with Penelope's story, I think this is a beautiful ending to this live stream. And unless there's any questions from the audience, we will finish on this note. And we'll see you next time. Matteo, it's always fun seeing you both in person or virtually. And thank you so much for sharing with us your knowledge on Kubernetes and your insights on the release process and this release in particular. And obviously, there's a lot more inside that we don't have enough time to talk about. But please check out the release blog and the release notes if you are extra nerdy. And look in the comments for the link to apply for the next release team. I know I'm going to apply. I'm deeply inspired by Matteo and his work. And also, good luck on your next endeavor. I know it's too early to share, but I know you're going to crush it. So
thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, everyone out there listening, and I'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.